from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Friday, June 3rd. So today we have the moon moving out of Cancer energy and moving into Leo energy. So the last couple days have been highly emotional. We can blame the moon in her place of power in Cancer for that. We've definitely retreated. We definitely had to focus on our emotions, on gaining a little bit of a stronger footing, a little bit more stability in our emotional realm. We've retreated from putting ourselves out there to stick to what is old, tried, tested, and true in order for us to nurture ourselves back to a place of familiarity and comfortability. Now, anytime that we're moving out of Cancer energy and moving into Leo energy, you best believe that we are going to get fired up in all the right ways. Think of the ending degrees of Cancer energy, of where it is that we kind of get our nerves wrecked. We kind of get nervous, we get illuminated to some darker thoughts, some darker feelings, we get some fears illuminated. And just as that emotion intensifies, when the moon shifts into Leo, we get confident again. We pick ourselves up, we dust ourselves off, we embody the qualities and characteristics of the lion. We roar in order to remind ourselves who the F we are and to let the rest of the jungle know that guess what, we're back. We might be bearing some scars, some emotional wounds, but we're not going to let that hold us down and prevent us from moving forward. So the moon is going to go void, of course, around 11:16 a.m. and will be locking into Leo energy 2:39 p.m. Again, Eastern Standard Time. So we do have a couple of hours there while the moon is void that we do not feel so good. We don't feel so hot. We're not thinking so good. Definitely not a time to push anything new, to make any kind of new commitments, to make new choices or decisions. Typically speaking, we feel pretty unstable, pretty emotional, highly wonky while the moon is void. Adding to the chaos of the day is the fact that Mercury is going direct. Now that is something to celebrate. However, it ain't going to feel very good. We got a lot going on in the cosmos today. Mercury coming out of a retrograde, finally sobering up from that little drunken or drugged adventure that we've been on for quite a few weeks now. If you haven't listened to the astro forecast that I put out for Mercury going direct in Taurus, I'm going to recommend you do that. It's pretty important, pretty important for us to review all that we've gone through eclipse season, through retrograde, and what it is that we're being prepped and prepared for. To add to the chaos of the day, we have 13 different aspects taking place. 8 of them involve the moon. Not to mention, this is the last day that Saturn, the Lord of Karma, will be direct. That's right. Just as Mercury comes direct, Saturn is going retrograde. So let's jump into it. 3:56 a.m. Mercury will station direct. Now, granted, it does take 2 weeks post-shadow period for Mercury to get up to speed, to get up to orb, to finally start moving forward. Over this next 2 weeks, though, we are going to have huge epiphanies. We are going to have events just pick up at a speed and an accelerated rate that we were not prepared for. We are going to have new information and details, new perspectives, new understandings thrown at us. It literally is going to feel like we have a brand new brain with a fresh set of eyes. We will see major developments take place and unfold and be revealed over the next couple of weeks. We have to still be very careful because we're not up to par, meaning our mental planes are still not up to speed, still not up to strength. We are going to have to struggle with trying to make sense of a lot of the information that's coming at us. We will still struggle with getting our heart and head on the same page. We will still struggle with trying to communicate ourselves. See, I'm already doing it. Communicate ourselves with confidence and with clarity. But nonetheless, it is something to celebrate. Mercury stationing direct means that we aren't going to just be tossed around anymore. The chaos, the confusion, the lack of clarity will definitely begin to be the thing of the past. We do have to get a couple of days of Mercury stationing direct under our belt before we're going to see some of the details that we might have missed while Mercury was retrograde. The moon, while still in Cancer, is going to bump into Saturn, the Lord of Karma. And again, keep in mind, this is the last day that Saturn will be direct, essentially just going at a snail pace right now, ready to just press that pause button and move in a retrograde position here tomorrow. But until then, we are still heavily weighted. What are we heavily weighted with? Well, we're carrying some very heavy emotions. Especially where our roles and responsibilities are concerned, where our connections and commitments are concerned in our home, with our family dynamics, in our personal relationships. Saturn, of course, being an Aquarian energy, wants to show us where it is that new roles and responsibilities are absolutely necessary for us to boss up and step into if we stand a chance in breaking away from the old commitments, the old roles, the old responsibilities, the old karmic chapters, the old soul connections. Well, why do we want to do that? Because they've been played out. We want better for ourselves. Saturn in this Aquarian energy likes to show us a visual, a dream, a whole snapshot of the kind of life in which we want to be living in order for us to be responsible enough to see where it is that we got to break things down in manageable pieces and where it is that we need to take control over the matters that we actually have control over in the here and now to start bridging the gap from where it is that we're at to where it is that we want to be. The moon in Cancer, again, typically is overly attached to the old, overly attached to the past. This is a very hard aspect that will likely present itself in a situation outside of our control in order for us to take an action to let ourselves and the universe know that we're tired of messing around, we're tired of settling for the old, and that we are going to do what is necessary, as painful and as uncomfortable as it may be, to take our power and authority back, to start building new systems, foundations, and routines for ourselves that, of course, will support our dreams and our visions to actually come to life. The moon in Cancer is going to trine good energy, blending of energy, harmonizing energy with Neptune, who is in Pisces. Neptune in Pisces is our higher self, our intuition, our soul contracts, our dreams. And right now, the moon in Cancer trining with Neptune is, first of all, it's a lot of feels. Let's just start there. Our intuition is going to lead us into our next emotional cycle, into this next mental chapter, into this next cycle where we actually get to take action. But right now we have to be inspired. We have to be motivated. We have to remind ourselves of the dreams that we have, of the vision that we need to hold in our heart space, in our mind space, so that we can stay inspired, especially when life starts coming at us, because we have to trust our gut on this one. Our physical circumstances right now do not dictate to us what is actually possible for us in manifesting a reality in which we'd be happy to live, which means that we have to attach to our higher self, trust our gut, trust our intuition enough to say, you know what, I'm going to lose myself in la la land right now, move into that heart space, attach to that vision and dream, and really push the boundaries of what I believe is possible for myself in a futuristic sense. The moon is going to sextile Mercury. Now keep in mind, Mercury is standing still, just went direct in Taurus energy. So we're snapping out of the dream state. We're snapping out, we're sobering up, we're starting to look around and being like, oh my goodness, what happened? We're reflecting back over the last couple of weeks where Mercury's been retrograde, and we're just like, damn, how did so much happen in such a short amount of time? And how has so much happened in our inner realms that isn't being mirrored and validated in our physical circumstances? Mercury and the moon at this particular point is actually a good vibe for these energies to be working together, because it means that we're trying to get our heart and our head back on the same page. We're actually trying to get our head space on the same kind of speed, if you will, as the emotional processing that we've been doing is currently at. So this particular aspect may also put us in a position, because this is a hugely intensified energetic day, to want to speak out, to want to share, to want to really express ourselves, but just be mindful that we are not in the best situation to speak clearly, And we're definitely not in the best situation to have other people receive our information in the kind of way in which we would hope. So there is this powerful energy trying to help us share our intuitive insights, our understanding, our perception of what has all gone down and transpired. But again, communication is pretty choppy, and it's likely that misunderstandings are still highly probable. We have the moon semi-squaring the sun. Anytime that the moon and the sun come together, there is an overlap. We have the moon, which is our emotions, our unconscious self, and very much situations that have transpired in the past, versus the sun, a bright light trying to illuminate the qualities and characteristics that we need to embody in order to actually move on. The moon in Cancer, of course, very emotional, highly intuitive, very attached to the past, very focused on the home and the family dynamic and trying to nurture oneself back to a place of emotional safety and stability, while the sun over here in Gemini is still trying to figure out the pros and cons of the situation, on what path we're going to take, on what choice that we're going to make, on what decision we're going to land on what we should be open-minded to changing. The moon in Cancer, not really down for change. So this is why the semi-square, which is a little bit of a tension point, needs to happen, because we have to be illuminated from the past version of ourselves versus the futuristic version of ourselves, so that we become aware of where it is that we presently are in our thoughts, in our emotions, in our motivation, in our will, in our focus on what it is that we actually want to do. Emotionally speaking, we would like to stick to the same old, but there's this part of us right now that is so tired of the old that we're willing to do something new. And that is where the sun in Gemini is trying to shine a bright light on the choices that we have here. Do we want to stick with the same old and revolve, or do we want to do something different, adopt a new way of thinking, adopt a new perspective, try something new, and evolve? Now here's where things get interesting. The very last aspect that the moon in Cancer makes before going void is opposing Pluto, who is retrograde in Capricorn. So Pluto is the great transformer. He highlights for us power and authority. He's in Capricorn energy, which typically speaking is the father figure, is the astrology energy. Cancer energy is the mother figure. We're definitely struggling with the, let's say, family dynamic, and where it is that we've given our power away in the past, where it is that we've let the darker narratives take hold of our choices, our decisions. And let me just say that there is an element here, because the moon is at the final degrees of Cancer, where we do kind of quote unquote lose our minds, lose our grip on reality. This particular aspect with the Lord of the underworld, Pluto, does tend to aggravate some fear, some anxiety, some uncertainties, has a tendency to highlight for us where it is that we feel powerless in situations, where it is that we feel dark and bombarded and maybe obsessed to a certain extent on trying to bust out of the old narrative, trying to bust free from the shadows that keep us in a state of paralysis. And if nothing else, this particular aspect does have a high probability of revealing some very heavy, deep-seated emotions, likely that we picked up in our childhood, likely that has to either do with the mother or father figure, and how those conditions, how that particular narrative is constantly at play in our adult lives. Now, the moon is going to go void, of course, again, shaky as F, unstable, very uncertain, hella chaotic, hella emotional. The moon does bump into Uranus in a positive way while void. And this is actually a positive thing, even though it might not feel so good in our physical bodies, because it does have a tendency to kind of illuminate our anxiety, our nervousness, our restlessness. What this Uranian energy does is it wakes us up. It's like, damn, we have an epiphany. Like, oh, those buried emotions. Oh, that powerlessness that I just got realized to. Oh, the fear that just popped up in me. Zap, we understand where it comes from. Zap, now we can overwrite the program. Zap, now we are open-minded enough to adapt to the changes that are necessary in order to free ourselves from that particular thought pattern, that emotion, that behavior, whatever the case may be. And now we're awakened to the fact that we do have the power to overwrite that system, that we do have more control than what it is that we felt like we lacked. We do have a lot more power at our disposal than what it is that we felt even just an hour ago. So 3:05 p.m., we have the moon now in Leo energy, really bringing that spark back, really triggering our optimism, our confidence, again, embodying the qualities and characteristics of the lion. We are going to roar in all the right ways. This is definitely going to be a very nice change from the couple of days that we've spent in the heart space, in the home space, in the not so nice thoughts and feelings of our emotional realm. And, this is just another fire energy, and we have a lot of fire in the cosmos right now. We have Mars and Jupiter in this Aries energy, again, just pumping on the gas in this car. Again, the brakes are still on for just a little bit longer, but nonetheless, the moon now in Leo is adding an emotional backing where we're bold, we're brave, we're courageous, we're ready to move forward. We're tired of crying. We're tired of letting things get us down, where we are optimistic about what it is that we are going to set out and accomplish. We have Venus, who is in her place of power in Taurus, bumping into Saturn, who again is experiencing these last aspects of being in a direct motion. Venus and Saturn coming together in this way is going to give us a lot of aha moments on what it is that we need to build within our physical realm, where self-love, self-nurturing, self-worth and value are concerned. Emotionally speaking, we are clearly defining what is working for us, what isn't working for us, what we are lacking, what we want more of. And of course, Saturn, who rules over systems and foundations and structures in this Aquarian energy, is helping us to see the bigger, greater, grander picture. That's going to be a huge help, seeing as many relationships have really taken a hit through this last eclipse season that we had, left us in a state of confusion, not really sure where it is that we're going and what it is that we did wrong, quote unquote. We didn't do anything wrong, but we feel like we did. And now we really have to muster up the courage and the bravery to take responsibility and accountability for our emotional actions or non-actions that we need to be aware of and integrate so that we can build something new out of that. Now, there's always silver linings, even in the darkest of situations. There are always pros to the very long list of cons. And this particular aspect is going to help us really clearly define what our next venture should be, where we have to be, again, responsible and accountable for our own emotions, and clearly redefining what it is that we want for ourselves, especially where our relationship aspects are concerned. Venus is going to aspect Mars. So we have Venus, the feminine divine energy, in her place of power in Taurus. Very focused on the physical realm, the five senses, what brings us happiness, what brings us joy, what brings us pleasure. We have Mars, the masculine energy, in his place of power in Aries, being aggressive enough to declare what it is that we want, need, and desire, to have the action, to have the braveness, the boldness, the courage, the tenacity to go after what it is that we want. Now, let me just say, this particular energy, the way that these two are interacting, is likely going to manifest in a situation that is outside of us, outside of our control. It is likely going to manifest from a very close relationship that is going to give us an opportunity to grow, to evolve, to do something different. Now, again, I'm going to give you the gas and the brake analogy in the car, because Venus wants to go low and slow. She wants to stay in the here and now. Mars, on the other hand, just wants to put that pedal to the metal. Let's make up for lost time. Let's be aggressive. Let's go after what it is that we want. Let's make a bold move here. Let's take an action. Now, Venus tends to want to let things organically unfold, Let things flow to her. She's very much in the receptive, intuitive, attracting mode. While Mars, on the other hand, is like, screw that. I'm tired of sitting back and waiting. I want to make things happen. I'm going to aggressively push my narrative, my action, my desires, my wants, my needs. I'm going after what it is that I want. This manifesting in our personal relationships, not only going to highlight where the, I'm going to say, imbalance of masculine and feminine energies are within us, because these two being in their place of power, by the time that they come out of their place of power, we're going to be in balance again. Right now, we're kind of fighting it out. We don't know whether we should aggress ourselves or if we should sit back. We don't know if we should be forceful and put ourselves out there, or if we should, trust the universe's process and let things flow to us. But let me tell you, there is going to be a situation that happens in our lives that we are really going to have to become consciously aware of the energy that is best suited for the situation that takes place. This is being aware of our emotions, of our mental plane, of our physical action, of the lessons that we've learned, that we've absorbed, that we're looking to integrate. This essentially is a learning opportunity to walk the walk and talk the talk of what it is that we just realized through the retrograde, through the eclipse season. The sun is going to bump into Pluto, the great transformer, in a way that would suggest that we have just had an opportunity to put forth the knowledge, the wisdom that we have learned in a life lesson. Again, kind of floating off of this Venus and Mars interaction. And what are we going to do with it? We're going to put it to use. What does that mean? It means that we're open up to new ways of doing things. We have the sun, which is our will, our ego self, our identity self in Gemini energy, very much debating the two choices, the do pass, old versus new, ego versus spirit. We have all these choices, all these decisions, all these new paths, all these new choices. And bumping into Pluto in this way, the great transformer, is suggesting to us that we make a move that does suggest our growth, our evolution, our ability to recognize when the universe presents us with an opportunity to put to use what it is that we should have learned and absorbed from past life lessons into use in the here and now. And this is a huge, huge shift in energy. This is a huge shift in our mental plane, in our narrative, in our perspective. We're opening our mind up. We're opening our heart space up. We're recognizing that there is a power within us that we haven't stood in a very long time. We're recognizing where it is that we can boss up in a new way in order to prevent us from making the same patterns, mistakes, behaviors, repetitious thoughts, narratives, emotional mistakes from the past. This is an opportunity to level up. We have Mars semi-squaring the true node. Semi-square is a tension point. The true node, of course, is our destiny point, trying to show us the path that we need to be on in order for us to reach our destination, our goal, our mission, our purpose. The semi-square is a tension point and a conflict for good reason. Because right now, again, Mars is in Aries. He just wants to make up for lost time. He wants to take an action, make a move, aggress himself very forcefully in order to go after his new passion, his new desire, what it is that he wants. This motivation that we have is hard to kind of use in the best way. We have to remember that the Aries energy, the downside to that is that we burn ourselves out long before we actually see our end goal come into fruition. Right now, the true node is trying to get us on the right path, but this Mars energy isn't acting in accordance to what our soul's mission, soul's purpose is asking us to pursue. It's almost like Mars is over here just wanting to act out just for the sake of taking an action. Sometimes when you don't even really have a focus, a goal, a desire, you just kind of, walk around your house trying to, clean up and nothing really gets done because you're scatterbrained. You don't really have tunnel vision on. You're just doing something for the sake of doing it. And the true node right now, this is why there's this inner conflict, because we don't know the right action to take. We don't know the right move to make right now to get us on that path. So we're kind of using this like restless, nervous, semi-unfocused energy to just kind of pop off and do things for the sake of doing something without a direction, without a focus, without an actual end goal, which honestly is just a waste of energy. So we do have this conflict on what should we do now? Where is the next stage of the plan? Where is the next phase of the strategy coming in? We don't know yet. Mercury is barely even awake. We need a couple more days before we're going to start making logical and practical sense in formulating a plan. The moon, now in Leo energy, will be trining, which is a good vibe, a good energy, with Jupiter, the planet of growth and expansion and blessings and abundance, who is in Aries energy. This is fire on fire. This is a spark. This is where we get surges of energy. This is where we get just huge, overwhelming desires. This is where we get emotionally overwhelmed with all the things that we want to do. Jupiter tends to be a little bit extra. We focus on what it is that we want more of. Leo energy, very confident, very bold, very brave, tends to overcommit, over-desire, tends to over-exaggerate, if you will, what it is that we actually want, what it is that we're actually capable of getting. And this particular aspect, although it is a huge surge of energy, fire energy, a spark, a flame that is being reignited in us, which is great because many of us have been in a funk. We definitely need to pull out of this funk. But what happens is that we overcompensate. We tend to go a little bit too extreme, a little bit overabundant with what it is that we want, need, and desire. Not a bad thing, but just recognize that we are going to have the wind knocked out of our sails eventually because we're just not realistic, if you will, with our wants, needs, and desires in this particular energy. Lastly, we're going to end this very long, chaotic type of pressurized energy day off with the moon in Leo, making a very positive aspect with the true node. This is when we listen to our heart space. This is when we recognize our passion, our desire, where we want romance, where we want playful energy back, where we want to lighten the mood, where we want excitement, where we want to do creative projects, where we want to merely express ourselves in all of the ways that we still, because Mercury is still trying to come out of his funk, are not able to articulate. What we know to be true in this harmonious aspect is that the moon and the true node, we're finally starting to listen to our heart space. We're finally starting to reconnect with that. It's finally starting to feel exciting again. It's finally starting to feel optimistic and confident about what is actually possible for us again, which in turn is getting those wheels moving in our mental plane that Mercury rules over to actually see what direction, what focus, where we want to aim from here. It's a starting point. Are we going to have all the answers? No. Are we going to formulate a plan overnight? No. But what we know to be true is that we're moving away from what it is that we're no longer aligned with. We're listening to that spark, that excitement of energy coming back in our soul space. And when we connect to that, when we listen to that, we start to kind of get a couple of the puzzle pieces revealed to us. And that in itself is the baby steps that we need right now in order to figure out where it is that we want to go from here.